Welcome to the Taylor Made Tasty podcast. I'm Taylor, retired serial quitter turned goal boss coach, speaker, and consultant. I believe a beautiful life starts with a beautiful mindset. Join me as we amplify confidence, resilience, and actionable tools on the road to quit quitting on you and your vision. You are worthy of your goals, so let's go get there. Hey y'all, welcome back to another episode of Taylor Made Tasty, the podcast, here with another 10 with Taylor, all about taking ownership of your goals, which also includes dictating your goal timelines. So whether you have to shift a timeline due to your ability, money, your energy, your brain capacity, all reasons are valid. Let's discuss some ways to look at your goals and determine if you need to dictate a new timeline. I am in week 37 of my marathon training. My marathon is booked for November 12th, and I am scared shitless. If you have been following along on social media, you know I have been 100% on my running bullshit. I had a plan prior to a running coach, and now I have an even more in-depth plan, and I have been intentional and have used my word of the year to guide me. I have been disciplined. Even with that, I have really been second guessing the timeline of this particular goal. I saw huge strides for the first 4 to 5 months of running with lowering my pace and going further and just feeling overall stronger. However, in the last couple months, I felt more stagnant, like I'm doing the same thing but kind of over and over and over again, right? So I am running more often now, not necessarily longer distances, but more adding daily runs and then over the week longer distances, right? And with that, I have come to know that my mile pace is not where it needs to be in order to run the marathon that I signed up for. I am signed up for a marathon that has a time limit of 6 hours, which is fairly common. However, it's a huge elevation gain, meaning over the 26.2 miles, there are many, many hills. And I have to take ownership that the time limit is already going to be a bit of a struggle. And on top of that, I'm dealing with hills, which in my opinion are never fun. And as this episode is about dictating your own timeline for your goals, I need to look at the elements of my goal and decide what's the best formula for success, right? And that is what I want to encourage you to do. So maybe you have some goals that have lingered throughout the year, but you haven't seen much progress, or you have goals that you've been intentional about, but the timeline is creeping up and you need to audit whether or not that deadline still makes sense with everything that you have learned about yourself and learned about the goal in the time of working towards it. So I'm going to talk you through my process with looking at my marathon goal for 2022. I have on my vision board for 2022 the words marathon finisher. I have every intention of accomplishing this goal this year, especially as I truly set this goal in November of 2021. I gave myself a year to run and train to go 26.2 miles, going from literally 0 miles. I had no previous running experience to any degree, so I wanted to give myself a timeline that quote unquote made sense. But truly, I was pulling the goal of a whole year out of my ass. I have no idea. Now that I'm in the thick of training, I truly think that I had no idea what goal I was setting back then. I had no idea how quickly I would be able to train for such a goal because I had no experience of data for this exact goal. I am 15 weeks away from November 12th. Is that still a good amount of time? Yes. Do I truly feel it's enough time for me to make the goal happen? No. It makes me really sad to think about, but I do not confidently feel that I can accomplish 26.2 in 6 hours with 1,200 feet of elevation gain even in the next 4 months. So this is my process. I look at the goal as a whole, and then I look at my effort as a whole. And then I look at taking that goal timeline and working backwards. So we're talking about auditing a goal when you are already in the midst of it, right? So looking at the goal as a whole, looking at your effort as a whole, and then taking that goal timeline and working backwards. Can you accomplish the goal in the original timeline set? If the answer is teetering on no, this is where we need to take ownership of dictating a new timeline. This isn't about quitting. That is quite the opposite, actually. This is about giving yourself the best possible opportunity to be successful. Will you feel pressure taken off of you if you were to move your timeline? And think about how many people set a weight loss goal for the year, right? To set some just arbitrary goal. Let's say you do the math and you want to lose half a pound per week. That's about 26 pounds a year, right? Doable. Absolutely. But what if life happens to you and you're now looking at August and you have a 5-pound loss in your pocket and you are questioning how you're going to hit that 26 pounds by the end of the year. So you look at the goal, right? You look at the goal as a whole in the moment. Can you still lose 26 pounds this year? Sure. But what will you have to sacrifice in order to do it? Do you have the systems? Do you have the energy? Do you have the brain capacity to still hit the goal this year? Then you're going to look at your effort. How much effort have you put into this goal? How intentional have you been? How much wavering has happened with being on it and off of the goal, right? And then if we're talking about working backwards, there are 21 weeks left in the year. If you keep the same goal, you would be looking at around 10 pounds, which is amazing. It's not 26 pounds. But with that data, your goal to hit 26 pounds could just be moved to next year. You could just simply push back your timeline and relieve the pressure that you're, quote unquote, not hitting this goal for this year, right? And with that data, it can be, like I said, pushed back to the next year. This is where we have to work on the mental warfare, though. We get down on ourselves when timelines and deadlines aren't met with our goals. But if we quit, that's when we're starting from square one. Where if you keep the effort and the push and just move back your timeline, you're still hitting the goal. And if you've been around for a while, you know a quote I say often is you won't care how long it takes you if you actually get to your goal. You won't care how long that timeline is if you actually get to your goal. And getting to the goal is the goal. The timeline is for your accountability, but sometimes we go into goal setting and we have no idea how much time it will take us, which is why I wanted to remind you that you dictate the timeline, and it is okay to change it to give yourself a better chance for success. Again, this starts with meeting yourself where you're at. When you initially set the goal, you meet yourself where you're at. And the same logic goes when you are auditing your goals in your timeline. You start where you are then. You may be at the same place here in August as you were in January, or you may be worlds ahead, but still not close to the goal. Either way, meet yourself where you are now, not where anyone else is. This journey is yours. Taking my big scary marathon goal through this process, I have made the difficult decision to not run the Charlotte Marathon on November 12th. I will be auditing my goal in the next 2 months and deciding on a race potentially closer to December, or even as far as pushing it back to January of next year. And while January makes me cringe because it won't be a goal that I hit in 2022, just like I would tell my community and my clients, we are looking to finish the race, not win it. And with that, that means taking ownership of all of our goal timelines and looking to finish them, not to win the race, right? And the biggest piece of this goal is that there's no quitting in sight. And there is just taking in all the facts of looking at the goal, looking at my effort, and what is possible without injury and unnecessary stress. And just in case I didn't drive this point home, when we set certain goals, we can't grab our crystal ball and say exactly when that goal will happen. We set deadlines for accountability, but unless we have accomplished that exact goal before, we don't have any exact data to go off of to tell us when that goal will happen or what will happen while we're trying to accomplish that goal. And it's okay to push back a timeline. You dictate that. It is not okay to quit because you won't hit it by a certain deadline. You are capable, and if the goal is on your heart, there is a reason, and you are obligated to go get there. All right, y'all, it is time for the quote of the episode. This quote is from Henry David Thoreau, and the quote is, "What you get by achieving your goals is not as important as what you will become by achieving your goals." Take that into your week, your month, and maybe even your year, and take ownership that you decide your timeline. As always, thank you for being here. Thank you for being in my community. I'm so glad you showed up today, and let's go get there. Look at you, crushing it. Thank you for joining me for another episode of the Tailor Made Tasty podcast. My hope is you always leave with a takeaway to implement in your own goal-crushing journey. I would love if you could take a moment to leave a review. And if you're looking for a community of goal boss badasses just like you, be sure to check out tailormadetasty.com/membership.